Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to give my review of Monday Night Raw. Starting off the night, we have John Cena. John Cena finally returns to Monday Night Raw after what happened at Elimination Chamber. A lot of people have been anticipating what John Cena was going to say after what he did to Cody Rhodes. So John Cena comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. The fans were already booing Cena before he got in the ring. And Cena kept teasing that he was just going to do a mic drop and leave the ring. But instead, like I said, fans were chanting, Cena sucks. Cena then, like I said, grabs the microphone, tells the fans that they're making it too easy. Cena then mocks the fans, says that he is tired of being their puppet. Cena says that he is not a babyface or a heel. Instead, he's just a human being. Cena says that everything that he has done up to this point wasn't enough to please the fans. Cena then tells the fans that their time is up and his time is now. Fans were chanting, "We want Cody." Cena says that he lives hustle, loyalty, and respect. After that, he is interrupted by none other than Cody Rhodes. Rhodes comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone, says the fans believed in John Cena. Rhodes then asks Cena, "Who the hell are you? And what happened to you?" Rhodes tells John to find Cena, and that he doesn't want to face this Cena at WrestleMania. Couple things about this, man. Number one, it was great to see John. And like I mentioned earlier, man, a lot of people were, and myself included, were anticipating what John Cena was going to say after what happened at the Elimination Chamber. Obviously, what John did and him turning heel was probably, if not the biggest moment in WWE for quite some time. Nobody thought that John was going to turn heel. Nobody expected that to happen. Everybody anticipated that Cody was going to tell The Rock no, which that was exactly what happened. But to see, John join the likes of the final boss, The Rock, and turn heel, no one expected that to happen. So when that had happened, obviously everybody had lost their mind. Everybody lost their mind. So, and then after that, everybody was waiting for, okay, what's John Cena's rebuttal going to be? What is he going to say to the fans, and how is this John Cena going to be? A lot of people were anticipating that when John showed up on Raw in Brussels, I believe it was in Brussels, that, everybody was like, okay, well, is he going to get new ring gear? Is he going to get a new entrance? No. What we got was the original John Cena. The same hustle, loyalty, and respect gear, the same entrance music. Nothing changed about John. What changed about John the most was his demeanor. When he came out to the ring, he wasn't the same old John Cena that we're used to been seeing now for the past 20 years. You could see the look on his face of disgust and just the fact that he was pissed off and disgusted with WWE, and especially the fans, because the entire time that he was cutting this promo, it was always about the fans. The fact that, John has been with WWE now for about 20 some odd years, 25 years, and he feels as if that he has given everything that he possibly can in his power to give them, pretty much his all. The fact that he is 16-time World Heavyweight Champion, the fact that he's had memorable moments in WWE and great matches, and the fact that he has been around WWE on and off for the past 25 years. So the entire time that he's cutting this promo, he's telling the fans and letting everybody know that, according to John, that the fans were pretty much taking everything away from John. His money, his moniker, everything that John was doing, the fans were, taking that away from John. So when he's telling the fans, well, their time was then, but this time, my time is now. It was kind of one of those things where, the entire time I'm watching it, number one, it was great to see John and for John to have this rebuttal. But I think a lot of people, at least for me, it was one of those things where I'm like, man, it was kind of like a weird feeling, because my first initial thought for me, and this is just my opinion, I wanted John Cena to come in with new gear, new entrance, come in as almost like a Hollywood Hogan did when Hogan turned heel and joined the Outsiders, and John just comes in and says, "To hell with the fans." My initial thought process was, man, that would be great to see John Cena come in with new entrance music, new gear, and a whole new look, and then come into Monday Night Raw and just say, "The hell with y'all," the kind of same thing that Hogan did when Hogan turned heel and joined Hall and Nash as the Outsiders in the NWO. That's a complete opposite of what we got. You know, like I said, he got the same entrance music, the same ring gear, but the facial expression of John was if, the hell with y'all. And he kept reiterating that the fans, the fans, the fans. And, you know, we're going to see, I believe we're going to see John Cena again on SmackDown this week with Cody Rhodes. So I don't know what the rebuttal is going to be from what he said on Monday Night Raw compared to what he's going to say on Friday Night SmackDown. I don't know. You know, but I will say, like, it was kind of confusing for me because I was kind of hoping for a different John Cena than what we saw on Monday Night Raw in the aspects because he had turned heel. All we got from John was, like I said, his facial expression and the fact that his entire demeanor had changed from what he once was to what he is now. And there was no mention either, by the way, from Cody nor from John Cena, anything about The Rock. The Rock was not mentioned at all during this back and forth segment here between Cody and John Cena. So, you know, my thing with this is I want to see how this plays out. I want to see how this goes leading up to WrestleMania. We got a few weeks left leading up to, I think, 4 to 5 weeks. I think 4.5 weeks leading up to WrestleMania. So I'm very intrigued to see how this is going to play out with the storyline here between Cody and John. Do I think it's going to be a great match? Absolutely. And like I told you guys before, you know, when this, you know, whole thing with John was, you know, starting to steamroll, a lot of people were against seeing John versus Cody. I'm not. You know, I think this is something, especially now that John is heel, it just intensifies the match more, number one. Number two, it's history in the making because John, for one, turned heel. I would not be opposed to John Cena beating Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania and have Cody chase John for abundance of reasons. Number one, John breaks the record and becomes 17-time World Heavyweight Champion, beating the record that he's currently tied with right now, the none other than the Hall of Famer himself, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So that's history in itself. I also want John Cena to beat Rhodes at WrestleMania because it gets John more time in WWE. And have him carry that, you know, the Undisputed Championship and see what he does as a heel with that Undisputed Championship and how the story plays out. Because to me, I don't think the story here with John being a heel comes to an end at WrestleMania. And the way things are looking, because you had to look at the narrative, man. How does Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson factor into this storyline with Cody and John? Because, you know, obviously we all saw what happened at Elimination Chamber, and it's going to be very telling to see what The Rock does leading up to this year's WrestleMania, especially when it pertains to the matchup between Cody Rhodes defending the Undisputed Championship against John Cena at this year's WrestleMania, and how The Rock is going to be involved in that said match. So, for me personally, I mean, I'm going to, you know, just put it out there. I would love to see John beat Cody at WrestleMania this year and have Cody chase Cena. And Cena breaks the record. I think it just, you know, for me, I hate saying it, but I do think it's best for business. I really do, because I think it gives John more TV time, and that this is not the end that we see of John Cena after WrestleMania. You know, we can see John Cena at Money in the Bank. We can see possibly John Cena at, you know, maybe SummerSlam. And, you know, there's matches that can still happen with John. We can see Randy Orton versus John Cena. That can also happen. I believe there's another PLE that I think is going to happen in St. Louis. What better way to main event that, you know, PLE than have Randy Orton, the hometown hero from St. Louis, face off against a heel John Cena? You know, this was something that, you know, yes, we have seen Orton and Cena matches, but we never seen a Randy Orton and Cena match where Cena was the heel instead of Randy Orton being the babyface. So, again, this is something that, you know, there's still other matches that they can have here with John. Past Cody Rhodes, past, you know, post-WrestleMania. So, for me personally, I would love to see John beat Rhodes at WrestleMania and then Cody chase after the title that John Cena is currently holding and beating Ric Flair's record. So, it's going to be very telling to see what happens leading up to WrestleMania and how the storyline is going to, you know, portray itself out. Because there are some storylines, which I will talk about here in a little bit, that leading up to this year's WrestleMania, I don't know, man. I think there's something that needs to be switched with certain storylines leading up to this year's WrestleMania, but I'm definitely intrigued of what we're going to see and how this is going to play out here between John Cena being the heel against Cody Rhodes leading up to this year's WrestleMania. So I'm definitely intrigued, and I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen next year between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It's a no-holds-barred matchup. It is Ludwig Kaiser versus Penta. I thought it was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Kaiser and Penta, with Penta keeping the pace of the match. Kaiser and Penta then both exchange in the middle of the ring, or I'm sorry, on the outside. Kaiser then hits a Death Valley driver on Penta on the announce table. Kaiser then hits an enziguri. Penta then gets up, hits a back body drop on Kaiser, sending him over the announce table. Kaiser then hits Penta with a vicious forearm. Kaiser then hits Penta with a chair shot. Penta then gets up, hits Kaiser with a chair shot of his own. Penta then hits a Mexican Destroyer. Then Penta follows that with a Penta driver on Ludwig Kaiser, pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match is Penta. Hats off to Penta for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Dakota Kai taking on Ivy Nile. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Kai and Nile, with Kai keeping the pace of the match. Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee come out to the ring. They attack American Made, which allowed Dakota Kai to hit the GTK on Ivy Nile. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Dakota Kai. Hats off to Dakota Kai for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Io Sky and Bianca Belair's contract signing for their matchup at this year's WrestleMania. Io grabs a microphone and says Belair and Rhea will not disrespect her anymore. Io says that after WrestleMania, she will be walking out as champion. Belair says that she respects Io, but she also lets Io know that she will be champion after WrestleMania. Io and Belair then both sign the contract, but all of a sudden they're interrupted by Rhea Ripley. Ripley comes out to the ring with a microphone. Belair then pushes Io. Rhea then pushes Belair onto the table. Rhea then hits a powerbomb on Io, sending Io through the table with Bianca on the table. And then Rhea signs the contract and then walks away, stealing the contract for the matchup between Bianca Belair and Io Sky for the women's heavyweight title. Some interesting stuff there between Rhea Ripley, Belair, and Io Sky. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. Jey Uso taking on Austin Theory. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Uso and Theory. With Uso keeping the pace of the match, Jey quickly hits a spear on Austin Theory, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match is Jey Uso. After the match, Jey then attacks Waller. Gunther then attacks Jey Uso from behind by putting him in a chokehold. But Jey somehow gets out of it, and Jey grabs the heavyweight title, pretty much, showing Gunther that he is coming after his world heavyweight title at this year's WrestleMania. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's American Made taking on the LWO. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between the American Made and the LWO, with the LWO keeping the pace of the match. Ray then hits a 619, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the LWO. After the match, a masked luchador ends up attacking LWO, which seemingly seems like it is Chad Gable wearing the luchador mask attacking LWO. Moving on from that, we have Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Rollins talks about last Monday Night Raw. He also mocks Roman Reigns. Rollins calls Punk the luckiest loser in the world. Rollins says that he is going to be on SmackDown this Friday to confront Punk and Roman Reigns. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's the main event of Monday Night Raw. It is Finn Balor taking on Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Balor and Breaker, with Breaker keeping the pace of the match. The Judgment Day are here, but Braun attacks the Judgment Day. Braun then hits a Frankensteiner, but then Braun hits a spear as well, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match is Braun Breaker. After the match, the Judgment Day attack Braun. All of a sudden, then Penta is here. Penta then attacks the Judgment Day, saving Braun Breaker. Breaker then picks up the Intercontinental title and pretty much stares down Penta after the match. A couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw before I get out of here. When I mentioned earlier that there were some storylines that I really wasn't inclined or in tune with leading up to WrestleMania. Let's start with Jey Uso. I'm a huge fan of Jey. I have praised Jey Uso and what he's done from him winning the Intercontinental title for the first time and him winning the Royal Rumble. And I've said countless times that Jey Uso has literally busted his ass to get to where he's at now. Absolutely. He is a main event star, and he's done a lot of great things in WWE, from multi-time tag team champion, former Intercontinental champion, and obviously this year's Royal Rumble winner. But I gotta tell you, man, this shit here with Gunther and Jey is not really exciting me for their matchup leading up to this year's WrestleMania. So much so that I will go on a limb here to say that this matchup between Gunther and Jey for the World Heavyweight title, I wouldn't even have it as the main event on night one. This is a mid-card match, man. And the way that they're building this match up and the build-up for this match, man, it's just absolutely stale. We got now for the past 3 to 4 weeks now, we had Gunther literally doing the same shit that he's been doing for the past couple weeks by choking out Jey Uso. We need something different. And I think there's a way to fix it. I think this is something where Gunther, I don't know how he will do this. He needs to take it personal towards Jey. I don't give a shit if it's him attacking Jimmy Uso backstage or beating the hell out of Rikishi, Jey Uso's father, and beating the hell out of Rikishi backstage and sending a message to Jey, letting him know that there's nothing that Jey can do to get underneath his skin. And this would, obviously intensify the storyline with Jey and Gunther, and this would be a whole different limelight, if you will, on Jey. Gunther needs to make this personal leading up to this year's WrestleMania, because I'm telling you right now, if this is all we're going to get out of this Gunther and Jey shit, I mean, I'll be surprised if it main events WrestleMania Night 1 at this point. This could be very well a mid-card matchup. Even though it's for the World Heavyweight title, I can totally see it. The build towards this match is awful. And Gunther, from what I understand and what I've been told, has stated that he's not really keen on this matchup against Jey at WrestleMania, that he wanted someone else to be the challenger for his World Heavyweight title. He is not really thrilled with facing off against Jey at this year's WrestleMania. And he's made that, publicly known. But my God, man, he is not doing anything at all to help this matchup. If anything, I feel like Gunther's making this matchup worse just by doing the same shit that he's been doing for the past couple weeks, by choking Jey out. It does nothing. And if anything, it just... I don't know, man. It's not something that's really, oh man, I can't wait for this match at WrestleMania. I'm not getting that vibe. I'm just not. And it's sad. I have a lot of respect for Jey. I really, as well as Gunther. Gunther is severely underrated, in my honest opinion. And as well as Jey. I think Jey has a lot of potential. But do I think this match, guarantees a main event spot in the way it's been played out? No. I honestly don't think it will. And it's not the only storyline. I mean, the other storyline that I'm kind of confused with, and to be quite frank, it kind of pisses me off, is this possible triple threat matchup here between Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. My first initial thought when Rhea had lost to Io, was I completely surprised? No, because it seems like, Io has a track record of beating Rhea Ripley, and Rhea she can't get a win over Io Sky. But my issue with this is number one, I wanted Rhea versus Belair for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. It was the match to make. I'm not trying to discredit Io Sky. I think Io Sky is great. But, Io beat Rhea clean. And now it's like, okay, well, I feel as if they're throwing Rhea Ripley into this storyline with Bianca and Io just for the sake of putting Rhea Ripley on the WrestleMania card, which I think is utter and complete bullshit, to be honest. There's no reason why Rhea should be a part of this matchup. And the more you're starting to look at it and how this storyline is playing out, Rhea seems desperate, to be honest with you. She seems very desperate. Desperate to be on the WrestleMania card and desperate to go after or to have a match at this year's WrestleMania. There's no need to slot Rhea Ripley into this matchup between Io and Bianca Belair. There is none. This match should be Belair versus Io Sky. And to me, it just feels rushed. It feels forced. And, you hear Adam Pearce telling Rhea Ripley, even after what happened when she signed the contract and went backstage, he told Rhea Ripley that she's acting childish. And Charlotte Flair has told Rhea Ripley the same thing. And when I'm looking at it, it's just like, man, this feels like a forced agenda just to have Rhea Ripley, because the name of Rhea and who she is, we have to have her on the WrestleMania card. No, you do not. No, you do not. To be honest with you, there's no need for Rhea to be on this year's WrestleMania. I'm not trying to say that she's not a good wrestler. No. But for me personally, and it might be a hot take for a lot of people, I'm personally okay with just having Bianca Belair taking on Io Sky for the Women's World Heavyweight title. That's the match to make. Now, do I see this turning into a triple threat match? Yes, because I believe what we're going to see here, because obviously there's hostility from Io and Rhea and Bianca and Rhea. And I believe Io is going to be the one that's going to approach, possibly, most likely, Adam Pearce and says, I want a triple threat match. I want a match up against Bianca and I want a match against Rhea so I can finally earn their respect by beating them both at this year's WrestleMania. So most likely this will be a triple threat match at this year's WrestleMania. Which, the way it's starting to play out, there could be multi-person matchups during this year's WrestleMania. You're looking at a triple threat matchup easily for Io, Bianca, and Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. You're also looking at a possible another triple threat match between Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. There's also been speculation of a possible fatal four-way for the Intercontinental Championship with, I believe it's Braun, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental title. There's a lot of multi-man matches on WrestleMania, and I feel as if that's going to happen, which is just crazy. And obviously this year there's some names that just have to be on this year's WrestleMania. There's no way in hell that you're not going to have Roman, Seth, and CM Punk are not a part of this year's WrestleMania. There's no way in hell. Especially that, this will be CM Punk's first WrestleMania match back since he's been back with WWE. There's no way in hell they're not going to have CM Punk a part of this year's WrestleMania. No way, whether it's night one or if night two. But, like I said, man, I just feel like the Rhea shit is just a pushed narrative, and it feels forced. And I just can't get behind it, man. And I feel the same way with Jey Uso and Gunther. Jey and Gunther, it feels like it's falling flat. And I don't want it to do that. I think Gunther, like I mentioned earlier, Gunther needs to make this personal against Jey Uso. Whether it's him attacking Jimmy or him attacking Rikishi. Now, I know Jey has a matchup coming up, I believe, next Monday Night Raw. And there's a mystery partner that's teaming up with Jey. It could be Jimmy. I don't know who the person is going to be. It could be Jimmy. And all of a sudden, Jimmy's attacked backstage by Gunther. That needs to happen. Gunther needs to make this personal. Because like I said before, and I'm going to reiterate this one last time, if we keep getting, the same shit from Gunther where he comes out during a Jey Uso match and constantly tries to put him in a sleeper hole, the shit is getting boring. Something needs to change. Make it personal. You know what I mean? Attack Jimmy. Attack Rikishi. Something. Make it personal so we get a whole different side of Jey. And Jey has the momentum. Okay, well, he attacked my brother. Or, no, you know what? He attacked my dad. He put my dad in an ambulance. Something like that. And it gets the emotion for Jey and the fans even more gravitated towards Jey because of what Gunther did to either Jimmy or Rikishi. And we get the entire fan base gravitated towards Jey because of what Gunther did. Because right now, I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like it's kind of divided, to be honest with you. And my standpoint's the same. I don't see Gunther versus Jey a main event match. I see it as a mid-card match either on night one or most likely night one. I don't see it being the main event. I just don't. And the way that they have the storyline right now, if you want to call it that, it's lackluster. And we had a lot of hype with Jey. I mean, if you look at what he did at the Royal Rumble, and a little bit after the Rumble, I mean, there was a lot of hype around Jey Uso after he won the Rumble, and now it's just like, man, it's kind of fallen flat, which is honestly a damn shame because, Jey Uso's a household name for WWE right now. He is a household name. And I just feel like right now with this storyline with him and Gunther, it's not cooking right now. It's just not. Same thing with Rhea Ripley. It's not just Jey, it's also Rhea. I feel like that's a push narrative right now, just to put Rhea on TV and have her a part of this year's WrestleMania. There's no reason why Rhea needs to be a part of this matchup between Bianca and Io Sky. And there's also other issues with that as well. I mean, if you look at Bianca Belair and what happened at Elimination Chamber with watching Naomi basically getting her ass kicked by Jade, and then Naomi has a rebuttal saying, oh, I did it for you, kind of the same thing that Rikishi did with The Rock, saying, oh, yeah, I did it for you, when he ran Stone Cold Steve Austin over in a parking lot backstage and took Austin out off TV for I don't know how many months. It was kind of the same deal. So to me, I knew Bianca had a title matchup, but I also know she has some unfinished business here with Naomi, I'm assuming. I know Jade has unfinished business with Naomi after the fact that Naomi and finally told everybody that she was the one behind the attack that ultimately took Jade Cargill off TV. So, I don't know, man. I just feel like that narrative with Rhea is forced. And I feel like, we can't have WrestleMania without Rhea. No offense, yeah, you can. There's no need for Rhea. And I feel like having another triple threat matchup with Io defending that belt up against Belair and Rhea Ripley, I just feel like it's forced, man. I do. And the problem is I called this. I called this a while back that, eventually it's going to run stale for Rhea because Rhea, she's multi-time, Women's World Heavyweight Champion. She's pretty much run through the entire division. What's really next for Rhea? And that's the ultimate question. Do I see Rhea walking out Women's World Heavyweight Champion after WrestleMania? No, I don't. I don't. And it'll be a damn shame just for have Io win the belt and then drop it to Rhea Ripley after she done beat Rhea Ripley for that championship. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I just feel like it's a forced narrative because Rhea has no other option right now leading up to this year's WrestleMania. Literally, she has nobody else that they're going to put her up against leading up to this year's WrestleMania. So why not put her in a triple threat matchup? And most likely that's going to be the narrative for this year's WrestleMania when it pertains to Rhea Ripley. But like I said, man, I mean, the crowd, and I'll also say this, the crowd for Monday Night Raw was absolutely incredible. And right now, WWE's doing their overseas tour. I believe SmackDown's going to be in Italy on Friday. And there was an early start time for Raw on Monday. I think it started 3 p.m. Eastern. So it wasn't bad. I actually enjoyed it. SmackDown, like I said, I believe it's going to be in Italy this Friday. So again, it should be a good show. We got a lot of stuff going on. I know we're going to hear from Cody and John. We're going to hear something between Seth, Punk, and Roman. It looks like it's going to be a really good show. So, I mean, I'm all for it, man. I think, there needs to be more builds towards some of these matches leading up to this year's WrestleMania. It just needs to happen, especially with Jay. Jay and Gunther need something else to get this match to start cooking, because right now it's not. Hell, it ain't even sizzling at this point. There needs to be something that's going to be really impactful for this storyline between Jay and Gunther. And like I said, the best way they can do that is for Gunther to make this personal. Attack Jimmy, or somehow, bring Rikishi in for something as a special guest or something. Or have him backstage and, he's getting ready to leave the arena, and Gunther just, chokes out Rikishi and lays him flat in the middle of the parking lot. And then Jay finds Rikishi laid out in the back parking lot. Something. You know what I mean? Gunther needs to make this personal to get the fans invested in this goddamn match, because right now, I can give a shit less, man, to be honest with you. And it's a damn shame, because I enjoy the work from Gunther as well as Jey Uso. But this match right now is just not... I almost give her... I don't really give a shit about this match, because I can't get behind it, man. I just can't. And like I told you guys, man, I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it a stack with y'all, man. And I just feel like it needs to have something else. There needs to have something where, all right, now we're getting to a point now where this shit's cooking. Now we're getting excited. We're getting invested in this matchup between both Gunther and Jey Uso. And right now, it's not there for me right now. I mentioned this multiple times about AEW too. There's a lot of storylines right now that need to die. The Death Rider situation with Jon Moxley, that shit needs to die, because it's ultimately killing AEW. I'm not sitting here saying that Jey Uso and Gunther is on the same level as the Death Rider situation. No, not even remotely close. But there could be more to this story between Gunther and Jay than what we've been getting for the past couple weeks. And we're just not getting it. We need something to intensify this matchup between Gunther and Jay. And Gunther ultimately needs to make this personal to get the fans invested in this matchup. That's the only way that I see this changing at this point. Rhea... I mentioned it multiple times now. I just think it's a forced narrative. Seth Rollins, I think with Seth, I think what pissed me off with Rollins on Raw was, this guy's a Raw superstar, as well as CM Punk, from what I understand. And it's like, all right, I'm going to take, 5 minutes of your time just to bullshit you and say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna have a conversation, but the conversation is going to happen on SmackDown. That shit to me, it does piss me off, because Rollins is a Raw superstar as well as, from what I understand, as well as CM Punk. Why are we getting this rebuttal from Rollins or Punk or Reigns on SmackDown? You know what I mean? Why are we not getting this on Raw? Roman Reigns had no problem showing up on Raw last Monday night to beat the shit out of Seth Rollins and CM Punk, so why do we have to wait to SmackDown to hear from Rollins, Punk, and Reigns? You know what I mean? And ultimately, to be honest with you, it hurts Monday Night Raw when we don't see guys like a CM Punk or, Seth Rollins or stuff like that, or even a Roman constantly on SmackDown. It does hurt both brands. It really does. Because fans want to, we're leading up to this year's WrestleMania, and I feel like at times WWE pumps the brakes. Oh, we had to wait till, SmackDown. Why? There was no reason for Seth to even come out, if that's the case. If Seth was already going to go to SmackDown anyway. There could have been some kind of segment there between CM Punk and Roman on SmackDown, and then have, surprise from Rollins, and Rollins has a microphone, and all three guys are in the middle of the ring. trying to sell us on a triple threat match between Rollins, Punk, and Roman leading up to this year's WrestleMania, which is most likely going to happen because, like I mentioned earlier, there's no way that you're not going to have someone like Rollins, Punk, and Reigns not a part of this year's WrestleMania. There's no way in hell that's not going to. There's no way that's going to happen. No chance in hell. So that match is most likely going to happen, which I mentioned earlier. That was going to be most likely a triple threat matchup. So, that's probably what we're going to be getting here and have this start to sizzle a little bit here between Rollins, Punk, and Reigns, and having this, this build up towards a triple threat match at WrestleMania, which, it's going to be an entertaining match. It definitely will. But, again, is this with CM Punk, is this the favor that, Punk is receiving from Paul Heyman to have a matchup at WrestleMania? Who knows? Right? Or is that favor still waiting in the balance right now and he hasn't cashed in on it? So we don't know. I think this year's WrestleMania is going to be very telling. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I think there's a lot of matches that some people are anticipating. I know the match for me, and probably most people, the match that everybody's anticipating is Rhodes versus Cena. It's got a lot of stuff on the line for this matchup, man. I mean, Cena can walk out, undisputed champion, beating the record that he's tied with right now with Ric Flair and becoming 17-time World Heavyweight Champion. How does Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson factor into this matchup? There's a lot of moving parts leading up to this year's WrestleMania. Some good, some bad. And some things need to be fixed, and some storylines need to be intensified to get us invested in some of these matches leading up to this year's WrestleMania. But, like I said, man, it wasn't the worst Raw. Damn sure wasn't the best either. And hopefully, they start, intensifying some of these storylines leading up to this year's WrestleMania, and hopefully they get better. Because if not, especially when it pertains to Jay and Gunther, I don't know how much more fans are really going to be invested if Gunther continuously keeps doing what he's been doing to Jey Uso for the past couple weeks, and we keep getting that leading up to this year's WrestleMania. Obviously, something there between Gunther and Jey clearly needs to change leading up to this year's WrestleMania matchup between Gunther and Jey. But with that being said, this is my review of Monday Night Raw. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember,